So, as we were saying, the very first step of data analysis, the very first step of data analysis will always be your data. The first step is to ensure that you have your data. You cannot do an analysis without your data. That is the reason as to why you will see that immediately we open our Power BI, the first item that we see from our dashboard, or rather from our Power BI software, is the data source. The data source. You need to first import your data. And the best thing with Power BI, or an advantage or an edge that makes me prefer Power BI over other softwares such as Power BI, such as Python, Jupyter, Excel, etc., is that for Power BI specifically, you'll get to work with different data types. You'll get to work with different data types, unlike Python, where you need to convert your data. You need to convert your data into a data frame so that you can work with that data. Unlike in Excel, where your data needs to be .xls for you to do the analysis. So for Power BI, you'll get to use any data type that you'll have, be it an Excel file, be it data from SQL databases, be it that you have a data from over Python file, or any other sources, be it you're getting your data from MongoDB, etc. You'll get to use your data efficiently without any hitch in Power BI, because there is that powerful feature that once you import data of any type, the system, or rather the Power BI feature, adjusts itself to fit into your data type. So you'll at the moment we are going to use our data, or rather we have an Excel data type, an Excel data type. But if you want to practice, you can use sample data from Power BI itself. But at the moment, I just want us to click Excel workbook, because we want to get, or rather we want to import into Power BI an Excel file. So we are going to click this one, and once we click, you realize that we'll be taken into now the Power BI workspace, where you'll now get to interact with tools such as visualization tools. As you can see from this end, you'll get to use to import as well data from this end. But at the moment, I just want us to ignore this one. Let me first ignore this one, cancel that one, so that we can at least look at our new environment and see the features that are at our disposal. So you realize that once you clicked the Excel workbook, a pop-up or a file explorer pop-up basically shows, or rather pops up for you to select a file that you want to work with. Else, far from that area, you can as well import your data from this new environment. You realize that again, the first items that you'll see here under Home tab will be data, or the sources of data. If you have any type of data, you will be listed from this end, and basically that is the features that we use to import our data. You'll have the query, and in other words, we call or we refer to this tab as the Power Query. Now, what is a Power Query, or what is a query? A Power Query is an environment in Power BI that helps you do your data transformation, and it is from that environment that you get to interact with your data, you get to learn your data, you get to do any kind of manipulation or any kind of erasure that you want to do to your data. So this query or transform button will take you now to a new different environment, as we are going to see once we've imported our data. So for insert, basically this is when you want to insert maybe visuals, you want to insert a text box for you to comment out, or you want to import basically more visuals, either new visual or you want to view more visuals. Basically, if you click the drop down here, you'll get to see that you can access your file to import any visuals of your desire. For calculations, this is a field that is responsible for DAX, the data analysis expression, where you get to write expressions to solve or to basically imply or impose mathematical formulas in your data. Maybe you want to calculate the average, you want to calculate the moving average. For example, if we have a company data that does the goods distribution, etc., they want to track their performance in the long run. So this is where we'll get to use the DAX, the data analysis expressions. And again, for sensitivity, basically this one is used to it is an advanced data analytics technique that is used to handle your data in a more professional manner. Sensitivity from the word itself, you get to do advanced data analysis through this. It's more of an expression, but it tests your data through different scenario. So for share, for example, basically if you're working with a project, or rather you're working on a certain project, but now you want people to monitor, or rather you want them to view what you've been doing or what you're currently doing, or you want to keep them up to date where your progress is at. You can basically share your project through this one. You can share with your friends so that they can get to see your progress as you work with your project. For insert, basically is when you want to add a new attribute to your data, and basically these are shapes. Basically we have the AI visuals. We have as well when you want to create visuals. I think we've covered that one from the home tab where we were looking at this one, the insert. So modeling is when you're doing basically it's more of DAX. It's more of DAX, data analysis expression. You're modeling your data using DAX. For view, basically this one is when you want to moderate your charts. You want to imply or you want to impose a more professional visual to your data. That is, you can only use these themes when you will be doing your data visualization, and you realize that they are not the only thing. They are not the only themes available. To your right, you can see that under visual, that is under build visuals, you can see multiple charts that we can use to represent our data with. So without further ado, let us now go ahead and import our data so that we can begin working with our data. So before we again import our data, I want you to look or rather I want you to observe to your left where we have these 5 keys. So we're going to discuss with the first 4 items. The last item is of no use at the moment, but for this one, if you click report view, basically this is the field that stores your data visualization, or that stores your data visuals. If you've created a pie chart from your data, it will be can only be viewed from the report view. For the table view, this is where your data will be splitted. This is where your data basically will be highlighted in short forms. That is, you will get to see. You won't get to see now your data points. You'll realize that for a data, you're going to have header names, and then followed by the data attributes or the data points for each and every header name. So under table view, you're going to see the header names. That is, your data has been summarized so that the only thing that you can see are the main attributes. But behind the scenes, your data is still attached to these attributes. For the model view, this is where you get to create you get to deal with data modeling, such as you deal with data schemas, such as examples of data schemas. We have the star schema, we have the I don't know if I'll get to remember, but at the moment we can go with the star schema. We have the bus schema. Yes, so this is where you do your data modeling. And then for the DAX, that is the DAX query view. This is where you'll get to see all the expressions that you've used in your data. Yes, and again, far from viewing the expressions that you've implied in your data or you've used for your data, you'll also get a chance to create DAX expressions, new DAX expressions. Yes, so that's a summary or a brief summary of the items that you can see from Power BI. So we are going to click Excel. You can actually import your data from this, import data from Excel, or you can just select it from the data tab here. So we're going to click this one, click Excel, and you're going to see, I'm going to work with the data. You're going to work with the data that is power consumption. Is it household? I think we have something like household data. Household power. No item. I have this data. You can see it from my file. Household under downloads. Let me reconfirm whether that data is still here. Household power consumption, yes, it's here, 61226. So allow me to this one due to my privacy. It's household. I don't know if why it's failing to display from this point, but I think we're going to use a new data. Let us use but I prefer the power consumption data. But anyways, let me just import data that is available. Let me try to use a different one. Yes, yeah, let us actually use this one. I think I had already imported this data rather than so once you click that, once you've selected your data, as it gets imported into my environment, so we are going to see that you're going to see a pop-up basically appearing in your screen, and basically that pop-up will always have a summary of your data, where you'll get to view whether the data that you've imported is actually the data that you want to use. And then once we get to confirm that that is the exact data, we can now proceed to doing the data cleaning. So we are going to give it time. It's a heavy software to run, but yes. But the best thing is that it's a free software. Back then we used to pay for subscription fee for us to use the Powerbi, but I think due to the way people have embraced this tool, and it's actually being used almost everywhere, Microsoft decided to remove the subscription fee, so you'll get to use the software for free. So it's a matter of patience as you wait for it to process your queries. Now our data has been imported here. Now the only thing that is actually remaining is for us to check the data that we want to use. So you'll see that we have a blank box, or rather where we are supposed to check to the left of this item. So sheet 1, you're going to select that box, and you realize that now it's actually previewing our data. It's previewing our data. So we are going to see a preview of our data and then confirm whether it is the data that we want to use, and then we can now proceed. Now see, this is a power consumption data. It is a data, basically this data was accessed from Cargo. That is where we get to download vast amount of data for training, because Cargo has all type of data that you want to use. So this is our data, and now the next step is now to get our hands on the data itself. And how do we do that? We cannot get to lay our hands on this data without a Power Query field. So we will now need to access the Power Query new environment. And how do you do that? Once you've checked your data, simply don't click load. So if you're going to click load, it implies that you've imported data now into the database or into the Power BI database. And because this data was already in our database or Power BI database or history, we need to click transform. We need to click transform so that we can now be taken to a new environment, that is the Power Query. So if I click transform, we are going to be transferred directly to a new environment, that is the Power Query. Power Query. So we give it time as it takes us to the Power Query environment. And as we you realize that oops, it has opened in a new screen, so I'll just have to move the Power Query again to the screen that is displaying Power BI. So just a minute. I'm using an extension screen, so that is why my Power Query did not open in my second screen. It opened in the first screen. So I'll need to basically display this one from this point. So now, once I clicked load our data, this is where we were taken to. Now this is what we refer to as the Power Query. This is what we refer to as the Power Query. So the tabs are one and the same things we discussed from the Power BI environment. And now the new thing that is actually that has been displayed, or rather a new item that has been added into the from the Power, or rather into this Power Query environment, is the applied step. To your right, you will see a field written applied steps. Basically, the importance of applied step environment, it is to track each and every step that you're going to do, or rather that you're going to take into your data. So assuming that you've deleted column 1, you're going to see column deleted column. If you're going to change the type of this data, the data type of this column, you're going to see again another step written below that you've changed the type, that is changed type. And now, before we again get to do data manipulation, or rather we get to do data visualization, we need to clean our data. And the first step of doing data cleaning is to identify, or is to get rid of empty columns, empty rows, yes, or empty cells. But basically we say that if you, for example, in row number 14, you realize that in row number 14, this item under global active power, this item is missing, and the rest of these cells from this row have values, but the only value that is missing is under global active power in the same row. Data rules say this: you need to get rid of the whole row. Why? If we are going to calculate the average time, and we compare with the average global active power, if assuming you only got rid of the empty cell from this row in this column, you're going to realize that if we have 1000 attributes, time will have 1000 attributes, but for global active power, it's going to have 999 attributes or data points. So that makes the comparison the comparison between time and global active power won't be legit, because the number of data points under global active power is 999, but for the time recorded we'll have 1000 attributes. You need to standardize your data. So if this cell is missing, get rid of the whole row. That is one rule of doing data cleaning. Now, we are going to inspect our data if we have empty cells. And how do you do that? So I'm going to show you how you do that from the first two columns, and then you can investigate on the rest of these columns. But I believe I've already inspected this data, but we are not expecting any empty cells. So from each and every column, you will realize that to the right of each and every column we have like a drop down. We have a drop down here. So that is the item that I want you to click. You just click on that drop down and you're going to get a summary. You're going to get a summary of the whole column, So you click that drop down that way, and you realize that you're going to see a new item. You're going to see an item, or rather a pop-up appearing, basically highlighting the data points in that column. But there's something that is missing. Something is amiss. You realize that it's actually telling us we only have one item, that is 39083. So let us inspect our data. So you realize that we have 39083 for the whole of this column. Like this number has been duplicated in this column, such that every item in this column is 39083. So that is an error that comes from poor, or rather from wrong data type. And as you can see, that this column is a date column. So what do we expect? We expect that if it's date column, we expect to see date here. We expect to see, maybe for example, if it's January 1st, 2026, we expect to see 1/1/2026. But that is not the case. So we need to check on the data type. And the data type of date is date. So to change or to check the data type of this column, you simply need to look at, or rather you look to the left of this column where we have small numbers. Let me zoom in. I don't know if it's actually going to allow me to zoom in so that you can have a clear view. Oops. It's impossible to zoom in, but I want you to observe where my cursor is actually at, where my cursor is at. So we have 1, 2, 3, and you realize that for each and every column in our database, to the left of that column, we always have some funny numbers. Let me call them funny numbers at the moment, but you are going to see what these funny numbers are. So we have 1.2 in the time column. We have 1.2 in the global active power, 1.2 in the global reactive power, etc. We have certain numbers that are beginning before we even read out the column name. Now, these are what we refer to as the data type. the data types. So you realize that for the date, we have 1, 2, 3. So for you to check the data type or to change the data type of this column, you simply need to click on that numbers, funny numbers. So I'm going to click on the 1, 2, 3 that way. And you realize that these are the possible data types that exist. These are the possible data types that exist. And we are going to go through each one of them so that you can familiarize yourself with data types. Now, we have decimal number data type. You only use this, you select the decimal number, you select decimal number if the values that you expect in that column will have decimal numbers. You select this one. For fixed decimal number, so these two are the same, but the difference is that for fixed decimal number, we use this one when our column is a representation of currencies. That is Kenyan shillings, euro, pound, etc. Why? Why do we have a fixed decimal number? Because all currencies have fixed 2 decimal points. Fixed 2 decimal points. For whole number data type, you're going to use this one if and only if the items or the data points that you expect in a certain column will all be whole number. For percentage is when you expect that the whole of that column to have or to be a representation of percentage values. For date time is when the column, or rather the data points in that column, have date and time at the same time. For date is when the column only has strictly dates only. For time is when the column, for example, this time column, the time, or rather the data points in that column are specifically time only. For date time zone is when we have a combination of the date, time, and time zone. Time zone are maybe UTC, EAT, ET, etc. If you have a combination of the 3 items in the same column, you're going to use this date time zone. For duration is when you expect the data points in that column are duration, or you're maybe trying to do a survey of the duration it takes for a ball to land once thrown from a high building, this one. Or you're recording duration that the athletes took to complete 100 meters the distance, or rather a marathon. For text, basically is when the column has texts, such as it has names of cities, names of people, names of countries, counties, etc. For true or false is when the data points in a certain column are Boolean operators. That is an argument between true or false. Boolean operators. For binary is when you expect that column to have binary numbers, and in computer science we say that that binary numbers are zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. So those are the codes of a binary phrase. So using local is when you have any other data type that is not listed here, or when you want, or rather when you want that column, or rather you want the column to remain without a data type. Now we are going to see the transformation that is actually going to happen here once we give this column the correct data type. So initially it had 1 to 3. 1 to 3 is whole numbers, but you realize that this column we expect date. So we are going to select date and see the transformation that will happen here. See, from 39083 to what will happen. Now I want us to replace with the current. So replace with the current, and again I want you to check what will happen here. So replace current that way and see what will happen in this column. So keep your eyes in this column and see the transformation. Boom. See, now we have the correct date, or we have the correct type, the data type of this column, or rather we have the correct data type from this column as we expect. So to view whether you have blank items, now that we've given it the correct data type, you're going to click the drop down. You're going to see a pop-up, and it tells you that the whole of that column has one date, or it implies that all of this data was collected on the same day, that is 1st of January 2007, and we do not have any box that is telling us there are missing values. So every time you click this drop down, so you're going to get a summary of your data from this point. So if you're going to have a blank cell, it is going to tell you that there is a blank cell. So let us do that test. So I'm going to get rid of this one. So I'm going to get rid of that one. Oops, it's like it's locked. It cannot delete this data. But let us proceed. But we're going to see that we are going to get a summary of items that are missing from this area. So inspecting your data, you realize that again we need to give the correct data type of this column. So for time, you're going to give it a data type of time and see the transformation that will happen again in this column. So you're going to get time. You're going to get time of record, or rather the time that these items were recorded. See, now we have the time. You have the time. And the best thing is that this column, or rather this column doesn't have similar items. So we can try and see if we'll have blank cells. So if you click this drop down, you're going to see all the items listed in this column. So this is what happens under the last item, or rather you're going to see the total values in this column. So basically we have 1000 items, but I want you to look at this one. If you want to inspect whether you have a blank cell, you're going to see a checked box here, but now it will be written blank. It will be written blank, and it is going to calculate, or rather it is going to tell you that we have 3 blank cells, and it's going to tell you in which row. If you're not going to see here, it will be listed as the last item. So for you to check whether you have blank items, you look at the first item in your data and the last item. If you don't see anything highlighting a blank cell, you simply know that your data is complete, doesn't have any missing value. So for global active power, again, this one, you see that we have values that have decimal numbers. So that is to imply the data type should be decimal number, not fixed decimal number, decimal numbers. For global as well, it is in decimal number, as you can see, 1.2. For voltage, again, is a decimal data type as well, this one. So the rest have the correct they have the correct data type. You have the correct data type. But there's this column. There's this column that it maybe automatically added itself, or I added unknowingly when I was importing my data. But you realize that we do not have any attribute, or rather we do not have any genuine value in this column. So that is to imply we need to inspect whether we have blank cells. So you're going to click this card drop down, and you're going to see that that the items in this column are all nulls. So we need to get rid of this column because there is nothing is being communicated here. So you'll just click on that column, column 10. Once you click on it, simply go to the manage columns here and then click remove columns. So once you click remove columns, you're going to see two options: remove columns or remove other columns. If you select remove columns, it's going to delete the column that you've selected. If you click remove other columns, it's going to retain the column that you've selected. So we want to remove the columns that we've selected. So remove columns, and you're going to see it's going to be deleted. And once it is deleted, you see that under applied steps that a new step has been imposed, telling us that we removed a column. We removed a column. So that is how we inspect our data. And now that we've ensured that our data doesn't have any null values and it has the correct data type, we are now good to go and do the data visualization. We are good to go and do the data visualization and data modeling, where we'll as well use the DAX, the data analysis expression. So after inspecting your data and ensuring that your data is clean, doesn't have any missing values, and your data is, in short, it is ready for use, it is ready for visualization, we can now proceed to the next step. So let us first inspect this the last column and see. You can see that we have zeros. Okay, yes, we have 0, 9, 12, 8, etc. So I thought we had all zeros. I thought we had zeros. We would have gotten rid of this column. But again, I want you to realize that if we are saying that a cell is empty, a cell is empty or is blank or is null, you know, some of you might think that just because a cell has value 0, it implies that that cell is blank. No, you realize that there's this man called George, I don't know if it's George Saitoti. He once said, or rather he proved, that 0 is a number. 0 is a number. So you should not insinuate that every time you see 0, it implies that there is nothing. Mathematically, it implies that there is nothing, but theoretically, it talks about something else. Now, that is all about data cleaning in Power BI, and once you're done, you can now proceed to data visualization. So to do that, you need to get out of this Power Query. Power Query, you remember we said it is used to do your data cleaning. It is used to do data cleaning. So once you've ensured that your data is fine, click close and apply. Click close and apply. Click close and apply. And then you'll be taken back to your Power BI, where we'll now get to do the the data visualization. So that is all for today, and I'm grateful that all of you people took your time to join this Power BI bootcamp, where we, as Traction School of Governance and Business, are dedicated to ensure that we put our students and our prospects at par, to ensure that they are up to date with the things that are actually happening currently, with things to do with technological advancement, to ensure that you remain relevant even in the midst of this artificial intelligence era, where things are being automated, things are basically, it's like we are moving from manual to mechanical, where we're using machines to do daily operations. So for you to remain relevant, you need to keep adjusting yourself. You need to keep on upskilling, reskilling, diving into new tech careers, so that you remain relevant in your field of work. My name is Paul Joki. I'm one of the ICT lecturers in the Department of ICT in Traction School of Governance and Business. And it was a pleasure having you all, and I wish you well. And before we end the bootcamp, I want to remind you that as Traction School of Governance and Business, we are one of the best institutions that offers Power BI hands-on experience, and our courses are, or rather our ICT courses are affordable, and they are affordable, and by the time you're done with your career, or by the time you're done with our courses, you'll have gained hands-on experience that you'll be ready to apply directly in your field of work, or in your workspaces. You'll get to bring new energy. You'll get to bring new ideas that never existed, because we offer cutting edge skills. So this course, we are going to send the flyers that have the school fees, or the fees for our ICT courses. Go through them, select courses or course of your desire, and enroll with us. Our certificates are certified. We have been accredited by TVETA. We have been accredited by CASNEB as well, because we offer professional courses such as CPA, CFFE, CIFA, DQM, etc. Yes, so you get to once you get to earn our certificate, you'll be able, or rather you'll have a recognized skill in the industry. Thank you all, and have a good evening. Thank you. So you will click close and apply, and everything will be updated. Have a good day ahead.